let me just finish this letter because it's interesting. By the way, he mentions that it's hard to contradict what Gould and the American Museum people point out. Now you remember that Gould, who was a greatly respected scientist from Harvard, he realized that you cannot prove Darwinianism. You cannot prove that one species gradually evolved into another. The evidence is not there. Dr. Patterson admits this. He says you can't disprove what they're saying because it's a fact that the evidence is not there. Now, Gould came up with what is known as punctuated equilibrium theory. Now, this is a theory that species suddenly appeared. It contradicts Darwin. Darwin suggests gradualism, and Dr. Patterson says he believes in gradualism, though he can't give any evidence for it. He admits that he can't. But the punctuated equilibrium theory is that a group of a certain species was isolated somehow in a community and cut off from other parts of the same species, and somehow through sort of unexplained kind of mechanism nobody's ever explained, this species suddenly developed a new species, became a new species. Now that's exactly, of course, in accord with the Bible. The Bible says God created a species. Bang! There it was. You know, that he created them. And so you've got abrupt appearance of species everywhere. And so Gould and the punctuated equilibrium people of the American Museum, as Patterson points out here, seem to be correct. He says it's hard to contradict that because you have sudden appearance of species. You do not have gradual evolution of species. And notice what he says with regard to these transitional forms. He says, yet Gould and the American Museum people are hard to contradict when they say that there are no transitional fossils. There are no fossils that indicate that one species gradually evolved into another species and transmuted. You have transmutation from one species to another, cats to dogs or monkeys to men or whatever. Okay, so as a paleontologist myself, I am much occupied with the philosophical problems of identifying ancestral forms in the fossil record. So really he's saying that he has great trouble trying to trace any evidence that one species turned into another in the fossil record. Okay, you say then that I should at least show a photo of fossil from each type of organism. You say that I should at least show a photo of fossil from which each type of organism was derived. I will lay it on the line. Here's the punchline. I will lay it on the line. There is not one such fossil for which one could make a watertight argument. So as I was saying, if snakes turn into birds, there should be millions, of transitional fossils. We should be up to our armpits in them. There should be billions of them all over the place. He says, I lay it on the line. I can't give you one watertight example of that. The reason is that the reason is that statements about ancestry and descent are not applicable in the fossil record. In other words, you can't find the evidence. Is Archaeopteryx an ancestor of all birds? That's quite a story. I wish I had an hour or two to talk about that. But anyway, perhaps yes, perhaps no. There's no way of answering the question. It is easy enough to make up stories of how one form gave rise to another and to find reasons why the stages should be favored by natural selection. But such stories are not a part of science. They're not facts. There's not evidence for them, for there's no way of putting them to the test. So much as I would like to oblige you by jumping to the defense of gradualism, basically Darwinism, and fleshing out the transitions between the major types of animals and plants, I find myself a bit short of the intellectual justification necessary for the job. Thanks again for writing. Yours sincerely, Colin Patterson. So here 120 years after Darwin's Origin of Species was published, he's saying, I can't give you one watertight example of a transitional fossil. So the most basic requirement for evidence for the evolutionary hypothesis, he admits, isn't there.
Just isn't there. I just wanted to mention before we go for a break that we're going to make this document available for download from the website so that you can get a copy yourself. And also there's a tract that I wrote a little while ago called The Chicken or the Egg, which came first, the chicken or the egg. And I think you should download that one as well, and I think you'll find it quite humorous.
Yeah.
So I thought maybe we'd just go for a break before we continue, Brad.
You're watching TruthIsWhatMatters.com. Stay tuned, we'll be right back.